What's up, everybody? We're back.
Yeah!
Hey, welcome back to a Metalhead's Journey. Hey, so hopefully you've been following along with us as we are going through all of these top 20 lists that we're doing. We have made it back around to the top 20 new metal albums of all time. You're probably wondering what all the gibberish was at the top there. That was our terrible attempt at doing a Fred Durst. Yeah, Dave, do it.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm doing like the Hulk Hogan like
it's almost like you're dabbing. Yeah.
Power pose.
Yeah, I just do what I can. I don't really have any explanation for it.
So if we got some Fred Durst right off the top, then that must mean we're talking about Limp Bizkit this week. This is the number 14 new metal album of all time. This is $3 Bill, y'all. We'll get right into a quick history of the band and the album, and we'll get right into it. Limp Bizkit formed in 1994 as an American nu metal band from Jacksonville, Florida. The band's style is marked by Fred Durst's angry vocal delivery and guitarist Wes Borland's sonic experimentation. The band was negatively perceived in the early 21st century. In 2003, Guitar World readers voted Limp Bizkit the worst band of the year.
Wow.
A 2013 Rolling Stone readers poll voted Limp Bizkit as the third worst band of the 1990s, only behind what two bands? Anybody?
Oh my God, I have no idea.
In the 1990s?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Sugar Ray.
Let's say 90s and early 2000s.
Oh, okay.
Nickelback.
Yeah, that's one.
Oh, that's such
Crazy.
a good answer.
No idea.
Trapped. I don't know.
And Creed, which
wow.
I like both those bands. So
All three of those bands sold millions of records.
Exactly.
Making money doesn't equal good.
And look, I would love to be
Success
that terrible.
Success. Yeah, for real.
I mean, I can't listen to Success. That's my only caveat there.
Well, the band was insulted by fellow musicians, including Deftones' Chino Moreno and Slayer's Kerry King, with King admitting that Limp Bizkit's popularity made him consider quitting music. I wish it would have made him quit because Kerry King sucks. Slate noted how liking Limp Bizkit can seem like an ethical failure. Durst's lyrics frequently affirm a noxious value system in which a seething hatred of the man coexists with a seething hatred of women. The Independent stated that Limp Bizkit was often used as similar shorthand for the misery bad rock music has apparently wrought upon the world. Following the band's set at Lollapalooza 2021, which was broadcast on Hulu, and the release of the song Dad Vibes, the band began having a shift in public opinion, garnering positive responses from critics and audiences. The band's comeback album Still Sucks helped with the shifting opinion with the album receiving mostly positive reviews. The band has released 6 studio albums, including their most recent album, Still Sucks. They've been nominated for 3 Grammys and have sold over 40 million records.
Bro, I don't know if you have this. I would assume out of the 40 million records, at least half of those are Chocolate Starfish.
I don't know exact breakdowns on record sales, but I know Chocolate Starfish sold over 1 million records in its first week. So I imagine between that and Significant Other is probably carrying about 80% of the workload here.
Yeah, I mean, I know Significant Other was big, with
it has to be bad to suck that bad
and break stuff, but I feel like Rollin' is when they completely exploded and became a full on household name. And then My Way, I can't even hear My Way without
without thinking about WrestleMania.
Wrestling fans in the chat, let us know. I hear My Way. I immediately can see the promo video for Stone Cold versus
Stone
The Rock.
Cold and The Rock.
Yeah.
WrestleMania 17, greatest WrestleMania of all time.
Yeah. $3 Bill Yall, released in 1997, is the band's first studio album. The band features Fred Durst on vocals, Wes Borland on guitars, DJ Lethal on turntables, Sam Rivers on bass, and John Otto on drums.
He will take you to the Matthews Bridge.
Yes, he will. Yeah. The name for the album comes from a phrase, queer as a $3 bill. This album peaked at number 22 on the Billboard charts and established the band's sound. The album produced 3 singles, Counterfeit, Sour, and You Gotta Have Faith, which is a George Michael cover for anybody out there who doesn't know.
I did a small amount of research on this album, Josh, and one of the things I did read very briefly, and it didn't go into great detail, but Slipknot, of all bands, was slightly influenced by this record.
I saw that, even though later on Corey Taylor would have kind of like a little bit of a feud.
Yeah. But in the moment, because I think the self-titled Slipknot album came out in 99, I believe. Spoilers, it's on this list, I think.
It is.
But I thought that was interesting. I don't often think of Slipknot being influenced by Limp Bizkit, because in my brain I just feel like they both came around at the exact same time. But it's a couple years sooner for Limp Bizkit.
In hindsight, I think that influence is pretty obvious when you listen to this album.
Yes, with this album specifically.
Yes.
Not when you listen to, like, if you only knew them from, like, Chocolate Starfish, then you would not understand, like, where that influence came from. But this album is much more guitar heavy and aggressive, I think.
Yeah. Jonah, why don't you start us off this week? What'd you think about the record?
Dude, this album, my first thought coming into this when I started putting my notes together is, what a vibe. Like, I wanted to hate this album. I was really prepared to just kind of dump all over it, but I can't. Now,
my man,
we all know that the genre, and probably this album as well, haven't necessarily aged gracefully, especially when it comes, like, for me, my biggest criticism is probably Durst's vocals. Like, his voice, you probably kind of either love it or hate it.
Yeah.
It's kind of grating in places and a little bit whiny, which, fine, but, hot take. Durst's vocals may be the weakest link, but I don't think this band works without him.
Yeah, I don't think it works without the attitude.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. Like, the vibe, the attitude of the whole album, it's very, I have nostalgia for the 90s. I've said it a million times. And this evokes the 90s big time. One of the things I found myself doing while listening to this album, especially when it was in the background playing, is this album isn't a head-banging album, but this is a torso-banging album, if that makes sense. Like, you just got to move your whole body when you're listening to this album. That was my experience personally. Now, the album is probably hard carried by 5, maybe 6 songs that I think are actually good, and the rest is kind of mid to bad in places. But overall, I did enjoy it, and just the overall vibe and the attitude that the album presents, I really enjoyed. And I think my score reflects that.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about the 5 or 6 songs that hard carry this, I agree completely. I think there is absolutely some gold on this record, and then there's some coal, or whatever you want to call it. There's some absolute just, you want to forget they exist, right? And it's I don't know. It's hard to kind of go back and forth. I love Limp Bizkit. Like, this is like a guilty pleasure for me. I was the right age whenever they were blowing up, and I know we've talked about Attitude, and we talked about similar bands like this, and like when we talked about Korn, and just being like irrationally angry at whatever, being an 18-year-old kid that really has no problems. Yeah. But you're just mad, And man, this band speaks to you if you're that kid. This is I had this album back in the day, or like around the Starfish time frame. I got into Chocolate Starfish and I went backwards and got this album, and I remember I listened to this album once and I was like, meh, okay, I like a couple of songs, and didn't really go back to it very much. So this is like the first time I've really listened to this album in probably 20 years, all the way through. And I would say there's a lot of songs on here that I felt like I heard for the first time this time around. And I truly like the album better than I thought I was going to, based off of what I listened to it last time. I'll be excited to talk about some of the top songs later on when we get there for top tracks. But overall, I feel like I enjoyed this record. It's kind of like a tale of two halves, though. Or not two halves, but just kind of like, to Jonah's point, 5 or 6 songs are really good, and then the rest of it is kind of whatever. So good. This is a good option if you want to put some songs on like your all-time playlist. But if you're Dave and you like listening to, whole albums, then, I can only imagine Dave probably doesn't like this album.
That's a good segue. I don't. So I am also nostalgic for
the 90s.
Well, Limp Bizkit in general. I'm me and Josh. Spoilers. Josh and I are about the same age. I think Jonah's really close as well.
Yeah, not far behind.
And Chocolate Starfish came out right time. High school. Same thing for Significant Other, but I never bought that record at that time.
What's funny is I didn't either. I had this one and I had Chocolate Starfish. For whatever reason, I never bought Significant Other.
So I love Chocolate Starfish. Again, total guilty pleasure. We'll talk about that record when it comes to it, but I would never call that record artistically good. It's just a guilty pleasure. So the problem with this record is I don't have the same nostalgia goggles that I have for Chocolate Starfish. So I have to just kind of rate this based on a musical value of what it does for me. And it's funny how I agree with both Jonah and Josh's takes, but I don't walk away from it with a positive. I agree this album is carried by about 5 songs, but the other 8 songs on here or whatever it is are terrible. There's a 16-minute absolute waste of time on this album, which is a huge percentage of the runtime. What a waste. Never listen to that song ever again. And the songs that are good, even the songs that I would consider good, there are Fred Durst moments where he just Fred Dursts it up. and it's we'll get to it, but the last 20 seconds of Pollution, God, I want that to end so fast. That is terrible.
Shut up. Yeah.
Yeah, he's I forget what he even says.
He's saying bring the beat back.
Yeah, he's back. Dude, and it's I understand what they were trying to do, but it went on you keep waiting for it to end, and it went on 15 seconds longer than you expected to end. Anyway,
and they tried to go meta with it, and he's telling himself to shut up.
Yeah,
in the song.
It's I get the
it's
joke,
cringe,
but it should not have been recorded. It should have been in the music video, but not in the track officially. There are some other songs that are good. I use that term, good, but I disagree with you guys overall saying that this band wouldn't have made it without Durst. I think they'd be a different band. But I think it's more fortunate, not that the band has Fred Durst. I think it's more fortunate that Durst has the band, because he is hard carried by them. Because if they weren't so good to make up for his terrible lyricism and grating vocals, while nostalgic and catchy and all that, it's fine.
I think grating vocals I think that's a bit much, man. This guy has a really good screaming voice. I would put him against other new metalers in terms of his screaming voice.
Screaming, yes, I can agree with that.
I'm talking about,
but I think
his rapping voice.
Yeah, his rapping and singing voice are.
An acquired taste is the nicest thing I can say about it.
Yeah, there are moments. There are moments, to your point, Dave. There are moments where he's singing or rapping, where I'm just please stop. Just please.
I'll let Dave finish, and I'll jump in.
It would be one thing if the lyrics were actually good, but they're most of the time are not. He rhymes words with the same word all the time. All the time.
It's not about the fucking lyrics, though, man. It's about a vibe.
Well, to some people, it is.
Well, yeah. No. You can't just say it's not about the lyrics.
Then you're listening to the wrong band for that.
Okay, then that's fair, but he wrote lyrics. I'm assuming he didn't just write a song and go blah 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 yeah blah 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 yeah like
They didn't have Chat GPT back then to write the lyrics for him.
It would have been an improvement. Anyway, what's funny is my score's probably not even going to be as bad as y'all think anyway. But it's just like, again, to me, hard carried by the music, big time.
All right, so I'm gonna agree with everybody so far on the panel. My take on this experience is the longer that I listened to it, the less I actually enjoyed myself because of the lyrics. And I think it's just one of those things where it's just one of those things. Anyway, my biggest issue is I like the music side of it, and you're right, Jonah. Like you just feel like your whole body has to get into this. I'll agree with Josh and disagree with Dave a little bit here that I think Fred Durst's vocal style is unique. Whether you think it's good or bad, I think it's almost done that way on purpose.
You're giving him way too much credit, but sure, let's just agree.
Let's just go with there. So when I say that, I mean you hear it come on and you're like, I know who this is. I know immediately who this is. Now, whether you like it or not, that's on you.
Sure, I will agree it's unique.
My biggest takeaway is that this album particularly missed me by a few years. I didn't listen to this, and by the time that say Chocolate Starfish was hitting, I was only into it because I was watching wrestling. Now, my biggest problem with this album is actually the longer you listen to it, the more you start listening to the lyrics, and that part doesn't age well. Not just because some of it's just crappy lyrics, but it's because some of the content is basically, woe is me, some girl or whatever hurt me, screw that person, I hope they rot in hell kind of concept. Whereas you absolutely 1,000,000% know that he has treated probably a million groupies like dog crap. So crying on an album about something you absolutely have done yourself is just hypocritical.
Well, this is their first album, so this is prior to all that.
I know what you're saying, but I'm thinking that high school Durst was still probably laying pipe left and right.
I mean, look, and even though my man is just tearing through groupies, doesn't mean he doesn't have a heart, bro. Doesn't mean people still can't break his heart.
Well, I mean, maybe he had it coming. So my thing is that the more I listen to it, the more I listen to it, I just had to kind of check out on the
real lyrics, by the way.
The lyrics of Angst and just kind of stay with the vibe itself. So I just stayed with the vibe itself, and it's better. But the more you listen to the lyrics, the more, for me, it was just more some irony that I felt was funny.
Yeah.
So do you think that, I think all of us here, I would say mostly like Limp Bizkit.
They're a guilty pleasure for the songs that I like.
Yeah.
There's enough angst and enough heavy that I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, what do you think? I mean, I guess you could say wrestling if you want to, but what do you think like drew you in to Limp Bizkit? Was it like a certain song, a certain like riff?
Oh, it's going to be some of the hooky choruses, the groove metal aspects of some of the songs that were big hits. If you don't fall for some of their hooks, I don't know how you even consider listening to music.
Yeah, if we're talking just like popularity, like pop music, they've written some super, super catchy hooks and riffs and choruses and stuff like that. Like their ability to write catchy songs, I don't think can be denied.
Yeah, I mean, they're to me, Limp Bizkit is like the definition of like a best of album type of band. Like,
and look, their best of is going to slap pretty hard, though.
Oh, I agree.
I question the album experience from them, though.
I don't know. What's funny is like hearing you guys sit there and whine about his lyrics for the last 20 minutes. It's funny to me is that's actually what brought me into Limp Bizkit. it was not necessarily like all of his lyrics, but it was how much cussing was on the record. Like at the time, being a kid,
Yeah.
you didn't have a lot of albums that were like that, and so you start hearing that, and you're like, dude, this is awesome. Yeah, like especially when you're hearing. I mean, I get it. We're I know we keep referencing Chocolate Starfish, but the opening track to Chocolate Starfish is yeah. I mean,
we can't. I mean, we would get demonetized if we sing the lyrics to that song.
Yeah, I've already said fuck at least once on here, so I'll just say it again. I mean, it's all the fucks in the song. Look, I mean, you want to talk about lyrics? I mean, that's probably a terribly written. It's probably a terribly written song.
Oh, it is.
But I guarantee you, Dave knows every single word to that song.
I know all 46 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, like I said, that doesn't defend this album because I have 2 decades of nostalgia, as I mentioned, for Chocolate Starfish that don't.
I'm just defending the lyrics.
The lyrics are bad,
and
no one would ever say that Fred Durst writes good lyrics, except for Fred Durst fans.
But my man screams and cusses a lot. And when I was
Booger Eden moron, we get it.
Yeah. How old was I when this came out?
97.
Or was it 96?
Well, this was 97. Yeah, so I'd have been 13. I was thinking like 2000. So I was 16 and 2000. And
I was already in my mid-20s.
Man, this was like, you were 26. This is everything I wanted in an album in terms of like just the cussing and everything like that. So I think that's what drew me to it. Jonah, who you got for MVP of this record?
So I'm going to cheat a little bit. So I'm going to cheat a little bit because, and I'll explain, but I've got dual MVPs for this. It's going to be Wes Borland and Sam Rivers, specifically because they work so well together on this album. Like when I was listening to it, I was almost getting like a Primus vibe. And if you listen to Primus, you know that, and I appreciate a band like Primus and like this, where the guitar and the bass are not playing the same riff. Like they're playing different parts, but they meld so well together. And this album is a prime example of that. The bass is off doing its own thing. It's getting funky. It's getting groovy. And then Wes Borland on some songs, he's got real heavy riffs, or maybe he's laying some, melodic lead on top of the bass track. It works so well. Songs like, Stuck, Counterfeit, Clunk, even Stinkfinger, which is not a good song. The bass and the guitar work so well together. So that's why I decided I'm going to cheat and just do both of them together.
Well, the music too, like on like an Indigo Flow, where whatever your feeling of the song is, I mean, the music on that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Jason, who's your MVP?
It's easy, Sam Rivers. Look, the guitar riffs are heavy, chunky. I like it, but I mean, when you can get a fat bass throughout songs, and it's brought to the forefront. And look, there's a time and place to have that. This is the band to have it.
Yeah, I'll come in here. I'm gonna back up my man here. He's catching just straight rounds to the chest all night long. I'm coming for Fred Durst. I mean, look, there's
nothing wrong with that.
Fred Durst is 51% of my enjoyment of this band. I love the attitude. I grew up with it. Whatever. I like his rapping voice. I like the screaming voice. I like the stage presence whenever you see him live. Sure. I think Fred Durst is the MVP for me, and that'll be the case across all three records that we do on this list.
Yeah, I think it's an easy Wes Borland. It's the easiest Wes Borland of my life. I think he is the glue that holds this band together.
Wes would be number 2.
As proven when he left the band and they released just absolute, even worse trash than they've already released. Because Fred Durst heard Saint Anger and decided he wanted to make improvements to his record because he thought that record was so good. Shows you how smart Fred Durst is. So it's easy West
MVP because he's right.
It's an easy West Borland. I think his riffs are actually truly unique for the most part. He writes riffs that are really well put together, and like the only thing that keeps my interest through most of these records, like all their best songs have a killer riff in it. I don't think that's coincidental.
Dave, what's your What's your album title and cover art score here?
Album title is like, I didn't look up the meaning of it or anything. I just took it completely at face value. It's a whatever to me. It's a 5.
This is an easy one, Dave. It's a layup. It's a 3.
Okay.
Oh,
My album art is like, it just looks like a bunch of pubes. I gave it a 4.
Jesus Christ! It's a sketch of a skater, dude.
yeah.
Not a penis, Dave.
When my brain saw like
A dick.
like no, it saw just like pubes on the backdrop of skin. I couldn't unsee that, and I'm like, oh, it's pubes, and then it's a 3.
I came in with a 2 for both. You know, even understanding the album title, it's whatever. It doesn't motivate me to listen to the record, and the album art is just, you know, mid would be giving it too high of a rating. So I'm a 2 for both.
I gave the title a 3 because it's as queer as a $3 bill, and I don't mind the album art. It's just a sketch of basically what a skater dude with an attitude or whatever. But so yes, you could have cleaned it up, but whatever they were going for, it worked for me. So I gave it a 5.5, 5.5.
All right, Jonah, what you got?
I agree on the title. 3 seems like an appropriate score, but I'm going to disagree with everyone on the art. I actually really like the art. It's hand drawn. I really like the band logo. It's got the title of the album on it, and I don't know. I think it matches the vibe of the time and of the album. So I actually gave the album art an 8.5. I like this album art a lot.
There you go.
There you go. What's your Bix levels rating?
I mean, it's
a 10.
Yeah,
a
it's
9.
a 10. Yeah,
9.5.
9.5, 9.5 or a 10. The bass on this album is phenomenal, especially when paired with Westmoreland's guitar playing.
All the music is.
Yeah. So is that also your production score?
Overall production, I'd say, yeah. I mean, you know, for the time, for it being a debut album, I think it sounds really good. I can hear all the instruments clearly. Everything's mixed well. Yeah, I'll go ahead and give it a 9 for production.
All right. Yeah, I gave it a 7. I had some moments where it sounded a little harsh, and that's probably by design in certain points. But I gave it a 7. But I did like the music mix in it though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming at an 8. I actually really like the production. This is the most guitar forward production that I've heard from Limp Bizkit. And I did go back for a reference to make sure I wasn't crazy. Like, I went and listened to Significant Other and Chocolate Starfish just like a little bit here and there. And yeah, this is way more guitar forward, way more like riff forward in the production. So yeah, I really like it.
I gave it a 7.5. I think for the most part, the instrumentation side of it is well done. But if you crank it up a little too high, it can sound muddy.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's get into the top tracks here. Jason, what's your top tracks for the record?
I have a tie basically for my number 1. So my number 3 is Stalemate, and number 1 and 2 can switch flip flop depending on which one it is. But I'm gonna go with Faith as number 2 because it's a redo. But hey, they went out on a limb and they made it their own.
It's a good cover.
And I knew all the words. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And number 1, Counterfeit.
There you go.
Yeah.
Dave, what you got?
So I went with Faith as my number 3. It's a good song. It's a good cover. My number 2 is Pollution. I do really like that. I like basically the first 3 minutes and 20 seconds of the song, and then I skip it. And when I'm number 1, and it's not even remotely close in my opinion. I think this is like leaps and bounds over every other song on this record. It's Counterfeit. Like, Fred's aggressive vocals, in the chorus, were surprising and welcome. His aggressive vocals in general, he has it on Pollution as well. I don't know. I mean, I know why he stopped doing that. Obviously, probably because it was. I don't know that he was screaming with like good form for his voice, because he really sounds like he's putting a lot of strain on his chords. But probably more so for like just the appeal of the band. But man, his screams are really good.
Super raw.
Yeah. I'll come in here. I had an honorable mention. Dave, I can't believe you didn't have this just for the Star Warsness of it, but I have Stuck on here just for the Yoda moment on there. Stuck on Yourself You Are. But great vocals from Fred Durst on this one. Number 3 for me, Dave, we have the same top 3, just in different order. I got Counterfeit at number 3. This was the song that got me into this record all those years ago, and still just a banger to this day. Number 2 for me was Pollution. This was one that I didn't remember from the record, and kind of whenever I put it back on for the first time a couple weeks back, getting ready for this, I was like, man, like I've been missing out on this song for the last 20 years, and I'm kind of upset at myself for that. So that was an instant like put over to my main playlist. And number 1 for me by a mile is Faith. I have this song. It has been on my top 100 Spotify Wrapped every year since 2017. This is just always a song that just, I don't know. It's anytime it comes on, I never skip it on my playlist. I seek it out. It's just a good, I don't know. I have a playlist that for like on days that I'm feeling like shit. And so I need like a happy boost. So it's my happy playlist. And this is one of the songs that's on it. So I'm sure that's why it probably stays on my top 100 list. But great cover. They totally make it their own. And I think this is like Johnny Cash doing Hurt from Nine Inch Nails, where now this is, to me, this is their song. And it's no longer George Michael's song.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that sentiment, I think. All right, so my honorable mention, I'm going to go ahead and mention, is Counterfeit. Great song. My number 3 is actually Stuck. I really like that song. Now, my number 2 might be a little controversial because of how I enjoyed this album and how I enjoy music maybe a little bit differently. But the first time I heard this song, I was like, wait, what is this? What's going on? And I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God. And then I listened to it all the way through. I'm like, I actually really like this. Everybody was dumping on it earlier, but my number 2 is Everything. I actually really like this track. It's not a song that necessarily good. It's not a song I would necessarily say belongs in like a best of playlist or anything, but just look, I'm just going to tell you, when I heard it the first time, I enjoyed it. I saw what it was. I listened to it all the way through, and it really resonated with me. It's very bass heavy. It's super moody and vibey. It's not like a jam, but as far as like, I could probably put this song at any point, and I can just kind of chill out and feel good about myself.
Because you wouldn't know what part of the song you're on.
It doesn't matter. It's like a short episode of a TV show or something. Let me just say this:
I never, not that Jonah ever does, but I'm saying this now. If Jonah ever says anything about song length to me on this channel,
no, see, that's why I put an asterisk on it. It's a vibe background song.
I don't care.
That I really like.
16 minutes of vibe. All right.
Yeah, I put on here. It's probably really cool if you're high as fuck.
Yeah, that too. So anyway, I was listening to it while I was working. Okay, I was like, my brain was focused on work, and this was going in the background, and it put me in a really good headspace. So that's why it's my number 2. Okay, and then Josh, you're absolutely right. Number 1 is gonna be Faith. It is a far better version than the original. It's the best song on this album. It kind of transcends the band at this point, in my opinion. It's just, I agree. Every time it comes on, it doesn't get skipped. I'm jamming out. I'm banging my head. It's a great song. Number 1.
Best lyrics on the album, and aren't even his.
Well, because he didn't write them.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, for the next part here, we all know in the metal community that the real sweet spot for metal albums is 8 songs. So what we like to do here is we like to cut these tracks down, or these albums down to 8 key songs to make it the best metal album possible. This album has 13 songs on it, so we got to cut 5 songs. Jonah, Give us your cuts.
Okay. So again, maybe some of my picks might be controversial, but my number 5, I'm doing in reverse order basically for which ones I like the least. Sour, I think can go. Not terrible, but it's whatever. Leech, I wasn't a huge fan of, so that one's getting cut for me. The intro, obviously, that's a throwaway. Number 2 for me, Stinkfinger. The bass is good on that song, but I didn't click with that one. And then I think the worst song of the album is Indigo Flow. I did not like that song at all. It's a skipper, but like, going back to the lyrics or whatever. It's just like a big long shout out / diss to a bunch of people, and I was just like, okay, whatever, get over yourself. So that was my bottom track personally.
That's funny. That's what I liked about that song.
I'll jump in because my list is almost identical. I do wonder if I have this cut list like this because of how kind of tired you get, or I got, of this album. But if you remove the intro and end this album on faith, it's a great album. So I'm going to cut Stinkfinger, Indigo Flow, Leech, and everything, including the intro. Start with Pollution and end with Faith.
I think that's solid.
I'll go next because I don't have the same cuts. I'm not a moron. So I cut intro.
I hate this fucking album.
Yeah,
Wait a minute, y'all are morons.
I cut intro. All right, Vince. Yeah, I cut the intro. I cut Sour. I cut Clunk. I don't know. I don't know how y'all like that song. I cut Indigo
Bass.
Flow, and I cut everything.
All right, Dave, you are also an idiot. I cut the intro. I cut everything, and then I cut Leech, Nobody Loves Me, and Sour. Yeah, those are all rough songs there. Dave, since you are the track list guy here, go and give us your rating for the track listing.
It's not good. It's not good. This album starts strong. It's incredibly top heavy in my opinion. I do like Faith. It was in my top 3, but like it's 2.5 minutes, and like it's the strongest piece of music in the back half of the song, or the back half of the album rather. So pretty much once that's over, like the real highlights kind of stop for me. Yeah, I came in at a 3. I think this track listing is super whack. It needs some readjusting here and there.
Whack, dude, going back to the early 2000s.
Yeah, all this music we're listening to, it's taking me back. Yeah,
listen, I don't disagree. I think it's very top heavy, and then there's a lot of just like skippers down at the very bottom of this record. I'm going to come in at a 5 on this. I think you could have rearranged it, or you could have just cut some tracks to make it better, but I'm just going to come in at a 5 even.
I'll jump in. I gave it a 4 out of 10, and the reason is simply because of what we both already said. It's pretty much top heavy, and if you just look at what I cut, it was all the last 4 songs. Yeah. And so if you just if you just kept those top 8 and cut out the intro, you have a much stronger record.
I will tell you,
track listing's got to be off.
I will tell you, I didn't even remember Indigo Flow was on this record until Jonah brought it up. And that's because after like the 3rd time listening to this abomination, I made an 8-track version of this. Like I made it already in Spotify, and that was the version I listened to going forward.
Indigo Flow is not bad. Look, I'm not sitting here saying it's a top end song, but it's got great music in the song. Like it's just got a cool little like vibe to it.
Such an easy cut for everything that Jonah said, because it's just like it's such a dated like yeah, I made a record deal and fuck everybody else. Like
it's probably the least poorly aged song on this album, because it's all everything in the entire song is topical. and
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
Which is honestly a death knell to any song's long-term sustainability, because somebody's going to be coming later and go, what the hell is he even singing about?
Yeah, who are all these people he's talking about?
I don't know that that's necessarily true, but like, I'm not interested in what Fred Durst has to say. Like, so like, it makes it not good.
No. Jonah, did you give your score?
My overall score?
No, for the track listing.
No, I haven't. I agree with Jason. It's a 4. I agree with Jason that it's a 4, but for all the same reasons that Josh gave. It just didn't. I don't think it flows very well. The track listing. So yeah, it just 4.
All right. Well, hey, we're coming into the last section here. This is where we like to give our score for the record, and just give you guys an idea how we score these records. For a lot of folks out there, an average score would be a 7. For us, it's a 5. So anything that's 4.9 and below, that's various levels of we would not recommend this record. Anything 5 and above is various levels of we would recommend it. And anything 9 to 10 is like an all-time classic record.
It's Russian roulette here. Who's going to give it the lowest
out of the way? I probably have the lowest score.
Dave typically, even though he's going to give what he thinks is the lowest score, he's usually judges a little easier. I'm going to go Jason.
Okay. All right. So I did not listen to this album today because when I listened to it yesterday, I listened to it an hour before we were supposed to come on, before we kind of got rescheduled. And I realized at that moment a couple of things. One, I had to stop listening to the lyrics. And two, what Dave brought up earlier, almost every song, there's a few points in it where Durst just does Durst things. And it became a real drag when he gets to those parts. So I didn't want to continue to listen to it, or the score might have gotten lower. So I gave it a 6 flat.
All right. Dave, go ahead.
Jason has a higher score than me.
Damn.
So I I couldn't resist. This album barely made it into the recommendation for me, with some strong caveats. As I mentioned before, I think this is carried so hard by the music. Like, this is like what would happen like if Rage Against the Machine had a bad vocalist. They would be Limp Bizkit. So like,
I mean, Zach De La Rocha is a worse vocalist than Fred Durst.
All right, let's not get crazy,
bro. Here. What are you? Anyway,
let's move on
because you're just incorrect.
Okay.
So, if this album was actually only 8 songs, and I guess for the sake of it, the 8 songs that I like, I would probably put this album like somewhere in the 6s, because really for me it's only like 3 songs that are like genuinely worth adding to any type of playlist, and then the rest of these, like, none of us are going to remember these songs like in 2 weeks that aren't our top favorites, like, or maybe 2 months is probably more accurate. But I came in at a 5.2. Just above a recommend, again, strictly for those songs in question. If I had nostalgia for this album, I'm sure that would bump it up probably a full point, but I don't think it would bump it up that much.
Go ahead, Jonah.
So I'm a little bit torn because I score things numerically, like very mathematically, and I always end up with 2 scores because of the way I do it. So I'm gonna kind of split the difference on this one. I enjoyed the album. It has quite a few flaws, but I think the overall significance of the album and like all the guitar and bass work is so good. I really enjoyed it, and just the overall vibe. So I'm gonna go with my weighted score because I actually liked everything. And I gave this album a 7. I think it's a strong recommend. If you want to know about new metal, or if you're trying to get into new metal, I think this is kind of required listening. And Wes Borland and Rivers just kind of knocked it out of the park for me. Everything else, obviously, there's a ton of criticism for the vocals and the lyrics, but I think I can ignore that long enough to enjoy what is here. So I ended up at a 7.
All right. I should have let you go last. You have a higher score than me.
Yeah, I figured.
Look, there's again, not to kill this. I think there's some all-time, like I don't want to say all-time great songs, but there's some like other than Faith. Yeah, what was? Come on, brain. Other than Faith, there's a couple other songs that are really good that are going to be on my all-time playlist. Overall, I do enjoy the record. I would recommend this record for folks out there, but there are some misses. I'm coming in at a 6.4.
All right, that puts us overall at a 6.15, and I will kind of read our description of what that means. So for a 6, that counts as above average, recommended with caveats. An album rated 6 has more positives than negatives and generally delivers a good listening experience. Though it may have noticeable flaws, inconsistent tracks, or lack originality, it's worth checking out, but only with tempered expectations. And I think that probably perfectly describes this record.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's fair. All right. Well, hey, if you watch this video with tempered expectations, then go ahead and hit the like and hit the subscribe. We're putting out loopy metal content right now. We got metal reactions, metal reviews, metal time machines, metal brackets, and all kinds of other cool stuff. And hey, in the meantime, live long and prosper.
Take it easy, everybody.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yikes.